nearly 10 months since the incident involving our three most recent United States presidents, in what appeared to be an elaborate scheme seemingly concocted by the 43rd Florida governor, Jeb Bush. At least that's what we know so far. Recent intel derived from the ongoing investigation insinuates that there may have been a third party, a puppet master, a man in the shadows. Could it have been an inside job? Well, we don't know, at least not yet. When questioned for more details on the story, Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre simply quoted President Biden's statement, where he simply titled the whole situation as a Jebademic. Sitting with me today is one of the agents who accompanied former President Bush in rescuing the three men, Special Agent Dave Hawk, author of the recently released book, The Slope of Life. Now, Dave, one thing I've come to learn is that this book references some of the events which were said to have occurred during the Jebademic. Is this book supposed to be a recounting?
Not entirely. Some of the events from that whole mess had actually inspired me to write this book. So what I did was run the story by my superiors, who filtered out anything that they felt needed to remain a secret during the investigation.
So what is the book about?
It's an autobiography that I wanted to put together to help inspire other agents like myself. You see, something inside me clicked shortly after that whole experience. I don't know if you could attest it to a rush of emotions, or perhaps me getting closer to God, but I found myself walking away from the Jebademic with a new sense of strength, which was nothing but empowering. So me and my partner Roland had the idea that I should put these feelings on paper.
It is true that there's been an increasing lack of confidence with the Secret Service after the election. So I can get your idea of wanting to share some inspiration.
I feel like a lot of us encounter that point where life throws us that 45-degree curve, and the adopted mindset is that it's unclimbable, the unstoppable obstacle. But during my time in that warehouse, I realized that this curve is not the mountain I think it is, but rather a path paved with rugged stones in the long walk of life. We all have the power to take those steps, Tucker.
Wise words, my friend.
Good for you, Dave. Huh? Oh, holy shit, it's the boys.
What's shaking, Bacon?
No.
Joe, I told you not to fucking open with that.
And you thought I was listening?
So I see you two are as good as ever?
Even better now that you're here, Barack. It's been a hot minute since the three of us could hop in a private call like this.
You're right about that, brother. So what's up? You guys got something going on?
Joe and I were wondering if you had some time to come check out a new property of mine.
What, you go and get a new house or something?
Something like that. But I got something down here that I really think you'll like. If I send you this address, do you think you could stop by sometime today?
Sure, absolutely. I don't really have an active schedule today, so I'm free to hang.
Fantastic.
Tremendous. I'll go ahead and send you the address now.
Sounds good. I'll see y'all when I get there. Wow, Donald never fails to make these places look so bougie.
Oh, good, you made it. Come on in, Barack.
Nice to see you, man. So, what exactly is this place?
Well, without too much exposition, you remember how you ran into those complications finding us a new place to hang out and game?
Uh-huh.
Well, after winning the election, Donald actually went ahead and had this whole mansion built for us, just so we can have a nice place to come hang out in.
Are you for real right now?
A mansion, which is off the grid, by the way. I made absolutely sure that this place is not only guarded, but hidden. Not only are we in a secluded area, but our IP address is also untraceable. There ain't gonna be no fucking dumbass AIA Boo situations happening here. I'll be damned if that stupid shit happens again.
How much did all of this even cost you?
Don't worry about that. Instead, let's worry about the thing I want to show you. Right this way.
I just know you're gonna like this shit, Barack.
Man, you guys are really building my anticipation here.
All right, check this out.
Whoa.
I know this looks like a mess right now, but trust me, I got something good cooking with this new studio. Some of our old equipment is over there in those boxes, but I still felt the need to buy a few new things for our individual desks. I even went ahead and made a guest area in case we wanted to have some of the homies over for a few videos. I'm also hoping to utilize these green screens to give us a similar background, but with different colors.
And I picked out the plant decor.
Joe felt we needed plants.
Go and tell me they don't bring the room together.
Donald, I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little dumbfounded right now. I would have figured you'd tune out of the whole YouTube thing after becoming president.
I thought about it, but Barron told me that it's good to maintain a fun online presence these days. And making videos has really become a great form of escapism from everyday stress. So I figured, why hang it up, you know?
That's a good point. Well, shit, fellas, what do you say we finish setting all this up? I'm feeling pretty hyped to get started on making content again.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, everything looking good on your end?
Yeah, we're platinum, Barry.
So what do you guys want to do to break in the new studio?
You remember that backlog of games that I sent you the other...
Sorry to cut you off, but there actually is something that we promised to do for somebody.
We did? Wait. Oh, Jesus, tell me you don't mean...
It's only by the grace of God that I didn't decide to hold my breath waiting for this tier list. I mean, at this point, it's pretty much been over a year now, you know?
Barack, are you sure about this?
We made a promise.
I know, but are you sure about letting him in on the tier list?
It's what he requested. And given what we put him through, it's only fair to let him have this.
You know I can hear you, right?
Yeah, I actually want you to hear me, Ben, because I'm only going to say this once. Do not go on another three-make tangent, okay?
Don't worry, I won't. Heck, Mario Kart is actually more of a Zen series for me anyway. The type of games I go to when I've had a bad day and want to just decompress.
Kind of funny, considering that some of the games are generally considered stressful.
Only if you're skillfully impaired, which I'm not.
Actually, I also share those chill vibes with you, Ben. Mario Kart is actually a staple series when it comes to the Biden family's game night.
A fucking festival that must be, right?
What the fuck's that supposed to mean?
Ignore him.
Well, all right, whatever. But yeah, we always love playing Mario Kart. Hell, I even go out of my way to look for the arcade games whenever we go to a Dave & Buster's.
Oh, I've played one of those before. They're actually pretty sweet to come across.
Definitely fun games, but I wouldn't consider them a part of the mainline series because they're not on any consoles.
Mainline or not, I'm going to rank them anyway.
So going back to the list here, how should we go about talking about the series? Should we go by chronological order?
That only sounds right.
Now, let's just freehand this list like we usually do. For instance, Joe's already talking about the arcade games, so just start with that.
Okay?
Well, there's 3 games in total.
That's fine. I'm not really all that familiar with those, so just tell us what you think of them.
To boil down my overall opinion, I'd put GP 1 and 2 in C tier and GP Deluxe in bottom B. The amount of content and characters you received, like Pac-Man, for example, was just impressive to me at the time. But admittedly, the only one that I'd argue is worth revisiting at this point is GP Deluxe, because it's a regularly updating game that has the best roster, which includes characters with alternate skins, better tracks and a fuck ton of items, and more importantly, the best drifting, which DX actually gives you a drift boost, so...
Wait, you said that game gets updates?
Yeah, GP Deluxe was a game that was connected to the internet. My understanding is that Bandai Namco did that so they can do patches.
It's pronounced Bandai.
Tomato.
Is this on purpose?
Anyway, I don't know how often they did those updates, but the fact that they did them in the first place gives me the idea that they cared about the game's quality.
Given that they're arcade games, I think that's fair.
My only problem with the GP games is that the tracks are a bit more on the bland side. From what I remember with the Grand Prix mode, rather than playing 4 different courses, they instead have you play multiple versions of the same track, just with different turns.
While that is true, I personally don't really mind it because, to tell you the truth, I wouldn't really be expecting that level of track quality from an arcade game.
So basically, it not being a console installment grants it proper permission to be bad?
But it's not even bad, it's just more generic. At the end of the day, I think these 3 games are definitely good. They may not hold much of a candle to most of the main installments, but they're at least a must-play if you see them in an arcade.
Again, I think that's a fair point, and I'm willing to take your word for it.
Yeah, B and 2 Cs are acceptable.
Yeah, hunky-dory. Can we talk about the mainline games now?
Sure, I'll go ahead and start. To begin, Super Mario Kart on the Super Nintendo should go in D.
What?
Wow, really? Why do you think that?
While I appreciate the original because it was innovative for the time and awakened the beast that is this Giga Chad of a spin-off series, if you go back and try it out today, you have to admit that it's pretty hard to actually enjoy.
Yeah, to be real with you guys, I never liked this game.
You never liked it?
No, never. The turning was slippery and the tracks were dull. In fact, do you guys remember how they named their tracks? Mario Circuit 1, Mario Circuit 2? I mean the sheer imagination with that, let me tell you.
Without this game, we would have never had a Double Dash or 64.
See, people always say that, and I fucking hate it, because realistically, how do you know? Nobody would have thought of doing 64 or Super Circuit. Give me a fucking break.
Well, I'll admit I always did prefer playing Super Circuit. That game played a bit better and even brought back all the OG tracks.
I'm gonna tell you right now that you're fucking demented if you put that game in sleepy tier. Not only did it start the whole series, but it revolutionized racing games at the time in a way that no other racing game did. Plus, it's arguably one of the better looking SNES games. For the time, it had decent controls and Donkey Kong Jr.
Oh yeah, Lil DK. Too bad they never brought him back.
They technically did for Tour, although all they did was recreate his original sprite.
So where are you trying to rank this at, Ben?
It's a high C at least.
No, it's not.
Yes, it fucking is.
You're so delusional with that take that the stupidity might be contagious.
You guys always do this with everything old. It's infuriating.
Ben, the only people going back to Super Mario Kart are nostalgia bingers and top 10 list content creators.
No, it's got a dedicated base.
Oh, you mean 15 people on a fucking Reddit forum?
Ugh.
The last comment was 6 years ago, Ben. Time to let it go.
You're the smelliest of turds. You know that?
Okay, hang on. I'm gonna go ahead and acknowledge what Ben's saying by keeping the game above sleepy tier.
Wow, seriously?
But how high above sleepy?
D.
You're ridiculous.
I'm sorry, man.
That's just fucking
is.
asinine. Absolutely no respect for the OG. None. Zip. fucking nada.
Wow, you really got him malfunctioning.
Aren't you one to fucking talk?
Hey, you can shove that attitude down to D tier with your fucking game, Ben.
Joe, do you have any altering opinions of Super Mario Kart?
While I do respect the game for jump-starting the series, I will go ahead and concede that it's pretty challenging to revisit. The controls take a bit to get used to, and the rubber band AI is atrocious.
Oh, you want to start that conversation? Every Mario Kart has rubber band AI, some worse than others.
Look, man, if it wasn't for Super Circuit, I probably wouldn't have even seen all the fucking tracks. I'm sorry.
Wow. All right.
So yeah, high D is where I'd put it.
Okay, I'm going to put it in D then.
You may as well put Super Circuit there too, because that game ain't much better.
It's not as bad as some people make it out to be.
It has awful drifting. Most of the tracks suffer from the same problems the original had, and it was on a handheld, so multiplayer was harder to work with.
Skill issue? The graphics were really nice and vibrant for the time, and multiplayer is now easier to do thanks to Switch Online.
Oh, right. You just needed to wait 20 plus years for that. Silly me.
I really can't win with you, can I?
You know, on the topic of multiplayer, let's be truthful with ourselves, Joe. People weren't sprinting to play this particular Mario Kart with their friends. At that point in time, I think it was exclusively 64.
And it didn't help that 64 had already set the bar as high as it did before Super Circuit dropped.
But how is it fair for us to go and compare a game on Game Boy to another on the N64?
In the context of a list where we rank one game against another, I think it's fair to say this one doesn't hold up.
You know what this game does that I think is really cool? If you hold the down button on the D-pad while holding a red shell, the fucking thing actually hangs back and waits for whoever you got tailing you. Meanwhile, the red shells in 64 are too busy crashing into walls.
Okay, you know what?
Barry, whatever you're about to do, don't.
We never throw Joe a bone with these conversations, so whatever he's got to say, I'm going to hear him out this time.
All right, fine.
Okay, so Joe?
Yeah?
Tell me where you'd rank Mario Kart Super Circuit and why.
If you put the game in either C or maybe even B tier, then I'd be happy.
B tier?
Let him talk, please.
Here's the bottom line. These days, you got a lot of people who like to dog on the game at first glance because, yeah, it's dated. But when you dial back that clock and look at the game from the eyes of a person back in the day, I think it did a really good job at being a fun experience. For starters, it was the first Mario Kart on the go. I don't care what you say, that's a plus. It was also the first Mario Kart to introduce the concept of bringing back retro courses, even if they weren't called that during the time. The controls may take a bit to get used to, but they're better than Super's, and once you do figure it out, it's pretty damn satisfying.
Okay.
Finally, the graphics for the time were vibrant in color, and the soundtrack is catchy as shit.
Well, you're right about the soundtrack. I've caught myself bumping that Rainbow Road theme a few times.
Imagine bumping Game Boy music.
Donald, not every track that leaves the Game Boy speakers is trash. You seriously over-exaggerate that.
Not as much as the Game Boy exaggerated those staticky farts all over Mario World.
For the love of God, Donald.
So where are we putting Super Circuit?
Being reminded of everything Joe brought up, mixed with my personal feelings of the game, which I think it's kind of mid, truthfully. I think putting it in C would be more appropriate. You said you could live with that ranking, right?
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Okay, great. I'm putting it in C then. From this point, I think it would be a good idea to weed out the games that I wouldn't expect to see in top 5. So what I'm going to do is call out 4 entries on this list that I just straight up think should be in B or lower.
Okay.
For starters, and I feel like we all agree on this, Mario Kart Live Home Circuit is more of a toy than a video game.
Absolutely.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I only bought it because I thought the carts would look cool on my shelf. But you know, while we, as adults, may not find much novelty with it, I'm sure there are some kids out there that think it's pretty cool.
But what if they have a small home with limited floor space? Then they're not able to fully enjoy the game.
I mean, couldn't they just take it outside?
Joe, stop trying to make it work.
All right, my bad. Just trying to be fair.
I get it, but this thing was more of a gimmicky toy to kill maybe an hour of time with the kids. For that reason, I think it's worthy of sleepy tier.
Right.
Agreed.
Okay.
Next on my radar is Mario Kart Tour. In short, I think it's kind of forgettable.
No. Wrong. Bad opinion, Barack.
What? Oh, for the love of God. Don't fucking tell me you're a Tour apologist.
No. It's not even arguable that Tour has the most content of every Mario Kart game.
But isn't a lot of it hidden behind a paywall?
No, you literally do not have to pay for anything in that game.
And yet, it's still microtransaction central.
As if microtransactions are an actual issue for any of you.
Look, I know multiple people who are addicted to the game that dropped hundreds to maybe thousands of dollars for goofy shit like gliders and items.
Okay, so what's the problem? It's other people's money that they're free to spend how they want. If you want to play the game without spending a dime, you could easily unlock everything by just playing it. And that game seriously offers droves of unlockable content, like cool items and plenty of character skins.
Admittedly, I have played this game on and off during these past couple of years. It's different, but honestly kind of overhated.
And the tracks are really fun. Some of my favorites are Singapore Speedway, Athens Dash, and Madrid Drive. And let's not forget how 8 Deluxe's booster passes were literally carried by a lot of the Tour tracks.
No, Tour did to the booster pass what the Koopalings did to base Mario Kart 8's roster. They overflooded it with mediocrity.
What are you talking about with that absurd take?
I'm putting it in D.
No, the fuck you're not.
Barack, come on, I think that's a bit too harsh.
It's more of a cash grab than a traditional installment, Joe.
But notice how you're the only one who seems to feel that way?
Yeah, I don't really care for it, but I wouldn't exactly say it sits next to the GOATs.
It brought back mission mode.
And yet the piece of shit still manages to get outclassed by DS.
It's worthy of a B.
No, it's worthy of a D.
I'm more of a C.
Joe, be straight with me. Where would you rank this game?
Don't you dare put any of your pressure on him.
Are my facts fucking with your feelings, Ben?
Oh, what a tired line.
Oh my God, you know what?
Yeah, how you doing? Could I get a double quarter pounder meal, large, please? George speaking?
Random question, George. If you were to rank Mario Kart Tour, where would you put it?
Should I even ask?
No, just answer the question.
Got it. It's not bad, but I don't care for it. So probably C tier?
Good enough, thank you.
You know, you should probably change that ringtone. It still gives me PTSD.
Boys, I'm gonna go with C tier. By majority rule, we should put it there.
Fine.
That's fucking absurd.
It's higher than where it was gonna go, so be thankful.
You put it below a damn arcade game. How are you going to justify putting down a free phone game for optional transactions while simultaneously propping up another game that requires you to pay to play? It doesn't make any fucking sense.
Wait, he's actually making a solid point there, guys.
Oh, holy shit. Somehow I forgot about that in the heat of things.
But we can't drop GP Deluxe. It's got a lot of charm to it.
So does Tour. And oh my God, look, it's free.
Oh my God, never mind. Just fucking put them both in C tier so we can move on.
But put Tour at the top of C because it's free.
Jesus Christ, Ben, would you fucking relax? In fact, what did I tell you earlier?
I am not going full power, and you know that.
Regrettably.
Okay, let's just take a breath for a second and regain some composure. Barack, what are the other two games you want to talk about?
7 and the Wii U version of 8.
To quickly refocus, you said these are not in your top 5, correct?
Right, they're not in my top 5.
So where would you put them then?
I'd put 7 at the bottom of B and base 8 just above it.
I agree with that.
Yeah, so let's move on to the...
Whoa, hang on. You don't want to fucking discuss the reasoning?
No, I don't. Because they're irrelevant. In fact, I'm bold enough to say the remaining 5 games on this list are so much better that they practically render the first half of this discussion to be filler content.
Okay, well I can understand OG8's placement because Deluxe pretty much made it pointless to revisit.
The main thing with Wii U 8 that I find myself wondering is who actually thought it would be a great idea to make the battle mode courses regular tracks, as if that made a lick of sense.
Yeah, but hey fellas, 7 isn't bad enough to be in B tier.
Well, no, to better clarify what I'm feeling, I don't think it's bad. The game just didn't connect with me the way it did for other people.
Well, speak for yourself before the whole room then, because you were about to put it in B without any discussion.
I mean, the others seem to agree.
My primary problem with 7 is the lack of single-player verses, and the current lack of any online service certainly isn't doing the game any favors.
And what on God's green earth possessed those clowns to remove Waluigi for fucking Honey Queen?
They literally just did that for no reason.
But you have to admit the game had a decent online mode when it was active, and it deserves credit for introducing customizable carts and gliders. That whole gimmick added to the game's replayability.
Okay, I will go ahead and admit that I really like the cart gimmick they brought in. And 7 does honestly have some of the best Nitro tracks in the series.
Debatable.
Oh, really? It's got Bowser's Castle, Neo Bowser City. That Donkey Kong track is pretty sick as well. Then the Woohoo tracks and probably the most creative Rainbow Road of any of the games so far.
You list all those tracks, and yet the game still gets overshadowed by DS and 64.
Huh. According to only you, motherfucker, I'd put 7 above 64.
What?
Hot take.
Do you mind if I take a look at your prescription bottles? But because clearly you're going through one of the negative side effects.
And do you mind if I bitch slap you across your forehead? Because I know what the fuck I'm talking about.
Hang on a second, Joe. What I'm going to do is drop base 8 and B, but I'm going to hold back on 7 because I want to hear this. So what's your case against 64?
Look, I've said before that I was never all that acquainted with the Nintendo 64 when it was fresh out the box, so I didn't quite carry that same nostalgia bug that most people seem to have. But let's quickly assess our pros and cons here. Even if 7 doesn't have a proper single-player versus mode, it still makes up for it by adding in more tracks. 7 had 8 total cups. Once again, referring back to the awesome Nitros and some badass retro courses, some of which being remakes of the best tracks in the franchise. Meanwhile, 64 only had 4 cups, and some of those tracks were just, well, not very good.
You know what? Didn't 7 also have more battle mode courses?
And an extra battle mode too, which was coin battle.
Oh, okay. That actually is pretty neat, I will say.
Whoa, wait a minute, Donald. How are you going from it's irrelevant to, oh, that's pretty cool?
Because I've never cared to play it. The 3DS wasn't really my thing, so I missed a lot of titles.
But if you haven't played it, then how can you properly rank it?
Ben, just shut your mouth, okay? I know what 7 introduced, and I've also seen the public's reaction to the game. Frankly, it seems like a mixed bag, but a common word that I hear whenever it's brought up is irrelevant. Joe, I agree with you that 64 isn't exactly perfect, but we're comparing the Teeth of Beasts from two separate time periods. 64 was the second installment to the series, introducing it to 3D and a bunch of fun new ideas and mechanics that would later be enhanced as the series went on. There's a reason people still regard it as one of the GOATs, because it made perfect with what it had at the time. Meanwhile, 7, while being a game that seemed to offer some cool new stuff, new stages, I think it was the first to have tracks that had you driving underwater. I mean, sure, it definitely did a lot.
Yeah, it definitely did a whole bunch, and that whole bunch is enough to put it in the B spot.
Well, yeah, exactly. The point I'm trying to make here is that there were things that were done in older games like DS that set the bar so high, and yet they didn't think to do any of it. Why? What's the reason?
Well, something that they...
And I'm not accepting answers like hardware limitations or anything like that, because DS really went above and beyond. So there's no reason for why they couldn't just build on something they already made.
All right, you know what? That was well put. So fine, I'll accept B tier, just so long as it's on top.
Okay, great. Let's get moving then.
Okay, cool. I'll put 7 at top B. So here's where things are going to get kind of juicy. We got 5 games left, installments that are generally considered to be the best of the bundle. Okay, let me try to make this easy for us. We can all safely agree that Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is an S-tier game, right?
Absolutely.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, it is pretty peak.
Okay, yeah, because that game's undeniably got the most content of any of the console games.
It's also pretty much got the best controls, too.
Right, not to mention the awesome selection of nitros and all the crazy DLC content which fixed some of the problems carried over by the original 8.
It's also got the best online.
This is also the only Mario Kart game in the series that actually had me look up the soundtrack. My favorite in the OST is Bowser's Castle.
Shit's a bop.
All right then, so it's down to our final 4.
The 4 horsemen of classic Mario Kart.
What's that supposed to mean?
I consider these particular games to be a part of an era of Mario Kart where there was an actual challenge to the races. Ever since the original 8, Mario Kart has been more on the easy side.
But didn't it introduce 200cc mode?
I didn't really like that mode, to be honest with you. It's just a gimmicky difficulty that's only challenges figuring how to adapt to slightly worse controls. When I talk about difficulty, I'm more so referring to tracks that had challenging obstacles and long pitfalls.
I can understand that, but I wouldn't call 200cc gimmicky. I happen to find it to be a lot of fun.
Barack, you all right? You look like you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm fine. Like you said, I'm just racking my brain here. I feel like there's a lot to talk about with each of these games, and one thing we haven't really done much of is talk about the tracks and cups. I guess to get an idea of where our heads are at, we could share our personal ranking of each game one by one. Let's start with Ben.
Should I go worst to best?
Sure.
Okay, to start things off, I would put the DS game in A tier, then for S I'd follow up with Double Dash in bottom S, Wii in the middle, then 64 on top.
Interesting. For me, I'd put Double Dash as bottom A, DS as top A, then Wii and 64 in S tier, with Wii getting a slight advantage.
Interesting.
Wait, what happened? You put Double Dash in where?
Bottom A.
Got it. So once again, you've brought our friendship to a crossroad.
Oh my God, here we go. Just tell me how you'd rank them, Donald.
64 is goated nostalgia, but dated by comparison. So bottom A.
Pardon me?
DS was fire, but it's not a game I've revisited for years now, so I'd put it at the top of A. Then Wii is bottom S, because yeah, it's great. But Barack, Double Dash had the best gameplay, don't lie to yourself.
And significantly less content by comparison.
Not compared to 64.
Okay, first of all, because I can tell you guys are about to get hot again, can we please not forget that we put 8 Deluxe up in S tier? I don't want things getting all confusing with this top of S, mid S, and bottom S bullshit you're talking. And second, my ranking pretty much goes like this. Double Dash is an important game to the series, and yet I could never get comfortable playing it, so bottom of A.
Couldn't feel comfortable with it?
Hang on, let him finish.
Then I'd probably say Wii is just under 8 Deluxe because the game, while fantastic, was a bit of a competitive clusterfuck. Plus, I find the other games to be more replayable. So I guess bottom S for that.
At least it's in S tier.
Yeah, good thing.
As for 64, I don't really know. And maybe A, I guess. Because again, I prefer 7 over it.
I don't accept that.
I don't give a shit. And finally, there's DS, which I'd lump next to 8 Deluxe, because personally, I consider them on equal grounds when it comes to entertainment.
Okay, no, we're addressing this immediately.
Oh my God, here we fucking go again with this shit.
Everybody but Ben fucking threw some disrespectful ass shade towards Double Dash, and that's unacceptable.
Did you hear either of us call it bad, you melodramatic bozo?
Double Dash is the quintessential example of how to experiment with an existing formula that worked and make it even better. The concept alone of having 2 characters per kart created gameplay that was not only fun, but highly energetic, because each of the different teams carried their own specific item, which amped up the difficulty.
But the controls, while not bad, still took a bit to get used to compared to the other 3 games.
That's a skill issue. I don't want to hear that. You talked about Super Circuit earlier and how, ooh, if you master the slippery turning, it's fucking... But of course you don't feel that here with the one that I like obviously not.
Man, you are so fucking extra.
Again, Donald, you're talking this shit like I said. I hated the game. It's undeniable that compared to the others, it's one of the GOATs. But if I have to hyper-analyze each of these titles, I'm unfortunately going to have to start pointing out that, yeah, the fucking controls are a bit more fucking awkward.
Well, it ain't as awkward as your choice in VP candidates who constantly speak fluently in drunken haikus.
Okay,
Why the fuck are you bringing up irrelevant shit?
Roll it back a second, guys. This entire tier list has been nothing but back and forths. More than usual, as a matter of fact. There's got to be a way we can figure this out without killing each other. Why don't we go ahead and take a deep dive into each title to see what we like most about it? We can start by looking at Double Dash and 64 because they're the two games that only have 4 cups each.
What's there to compare? 64 is the undeniable king of the whole franchise.
How is it king? Because it was released 30 fucking years ago?
It's 28, you spiteful jagoff.
You were fucking 12 when it dropped, Ben. Fucking Joe was 54. He's 307 now.
Oh, for the fucking dickhead, I'm about to hit and run your ass with that fucking Escalade outside.
Can we stay on the fucking topic?
Okay.
So anyway, I get it when you say that 64 is old, but you have to at least admit that it brought us some of the more memorable tracks in the series.
Choco Mountain, Toad's Turnpike, and Royal Raceway are the only engaging tracks worth remembering.
Literally no.
A good chunk of the others are just wide open roads with bland backgrounds that just go on for too fucking long. And you want to talk about controls? Let me remind you that if you hold a turn for too long in 64, you have a tendency to just spin out.
That never happens if you know how to drift.
That is something that admittedly happened a lot for me.
Mario Kart 64 revolutionized racing games and brought the series into 3D.
Ben, it was the second fucking addition to the franchise. 3D was gonna happen sooner or later.
Oh, what a beta-brained argument.
Excuse me?
Ben, if 64 didn't do it, then Double Dash would have done it. That's you fucking halfwit.
That was a terrible impression.
Is it even worth it to compare the battle modes?
I probably wouldn't, because Double Dash kind of slapped with that.
Yeah, because it introduced Shine Thief and Bomb on Blast. 64's Balloon Battle was fine, but lacking by comparison.
But I do like how players who are out can turn into a bomb and go fuck with people.
What? Okay, you know what? All right. That is admittedly kind of funny.
Okay, so Double Dash has the better battle mode. Then it's got the 2-character gimmick. What else?
You could swap between different carts. But hey, moving from that, Ben's over here getting salty over tracks, but let's not forget what Double Dash brought us. Yoshi Circuit, Baby Park, Daisy Cruiser, DK Jungle.
Peach Beach is pretty cool too.
All right, I'm willing to work with you here, Donald.
No, the hell you're not.
Ben, let's just be honest about this. I was gonna put the game in S tier, but when you stop and pull the veil over your eyes, 64 is pretty much a great game that's enhanced by nostalgia.
You know what? Do we have to have an A tier? Can we just put all the games in S tier?
No, that's lame.
Okay, then I'm leaving.
No,
Come
don't
on,
be
Ben,
like that,
really?
man.
Wow.
Come on.
64 is one of my all-time favorite games. And if you're not going to show it the appreciation it deserves, then what's the point of talking?
It's in fucking A tier, you big baby. Sit the fuck down.
Or what? You going to do something?
Okay, either you sit your ass down in that chair or I go and pay Benny Johnson to edit this Mario Kart video.
You fucking wouldn't.
Try me.
Okay, so where were we?
We were putting 64 in A.
Be gentle.
Christ almighty, Ben, don't make this weird.
So now here's the big question. Should Double Dash go into A tier as well?
Joe, that's a stupid question.
It's not stupid. Look, what we have here is a great game with a great gimmick.
It's a goated gimmick.
Okay, then let's just ask this question. Is one game's gimmick better than the other game's additional content? Because Mario Kart Wii, for one, had a slightly better roster.
You can't lie, we had a better roster.
Well, it's at least better than DS's roster.
DS didn't have as many characters, sure, but it had Dry Bones and Rob. And let's not forget about the Dry Bomber.
The Dry Bomber is about as overrated as the Flame Runner from Wii.
Because they're the best vehicles for competitive play. What are you talking about?
You're just fucking grasping at straws with this shit, Donald.
I'm all about the Poltergust and Wild Wing, baby. Take your plain Jane meta shit and shove it.
You know, off topic, I'm not hearing any grievances against Wii. Everything I'm hearing seems to be Double Dash versus DS. So, should we just put Wii in S?
I mean, sure, I'm not opposed to that.
Of course you're not. You're a Wii simp.
Oh, please continue with that so I can drop Double Dash to Sleepy.
Why do we let Barack control the tier lists?
Wii is definitely deserving of the S tier spot, but I'd personally put it below 8 Deluxe.
Really? I was thinking over because it had a bunch of goated nitros like Coconut Mall, for example. Plus, I think it has the most dedicated community who continue to push it to new heights even to this day.
I don't think it's too far-fetched to consider this game to be the Melee of Mario Kart.
Maybe, but I don't know. To go off of something Donald said, you really do only see a bunch of people playing Funky Kong on the Flame Runner.
But you also see a lot of the same builds on 8 Deluxe online as well.
True, but the meta keeps changing, and even so, you typically see some more variety with the help of the customizing system.
The Booster DLC also carries Deluxe like mad hard.
Fair and, yeah, good point.
Look, all I'm trying to say is Double Dash has its own unique sense of fun. Like picture Baby Park with all the cool character items.
Yeah, me losing first place because 2 dickheads in last throw Bowser shells.
You just gotta be evasive, Joe.
If you think a clusterfuck of items being thrown around everywhere is peak Mario Kart, then that's your opinion, Donald, but it's not mine. And let's talk about Nitros real quick. You said Baby Park and a few others earlier, right? But DS has Airship Fortress and Waluigi Pinball.
Plus Delfino Square, Peach Gardens, Luigi's Mansion.
Too soon, Barack.
Mission mode also helps DS stand out more.
Well, DS dropped Bomb on Blast.
That's fine. I never really cared for that mode much anyway.
Hard to believe.
What's that supposed to mean?
What about multiplayer? DS required more steps, which were not as convenient as plugging in the controller. And didn't the online mode only support up to 4 people per lobby?
Yeah, but for the time, that was pretty sick.
You want to know what's sick? If you have the proper LAN adapter, Double Dash can allow up to 16 players, depending on if you use 4 GameCubes at least.
Meaning 4 copies of the game and 4 adapters.
I think you'll also need a router if you go above 2 consoles, but I could be wrong.
See, who the fuck even wants to go through all that?
More people than you can find on a DS lobby? Oh wait, they shut that down.
Good lord.
Hey, wait a second. Didn't you shit on the Game Boy a while back for requiring add-ons that you had to pay money for?
What does that have to do with anything?
It's just funny how the GameCube gets a pass with all that.
Okay, I'm not listening to you.
DS had customizable emblems.
What?
I almost forgot, but DS lets you make up your own emblem, which is something they never brought back.
Oh, that's right. I loved that feature.
I remember when I was younger, I made my head into a Mega Man sprite and made it into an emblem.
God, of course you fucking did. Joe, that's just... I don't even know.
Don't act like you didn't fucking like it. You know you did, Donald.
Okay, yeah, I did.
Man, I feel like this is just dragging at this point. Donald, with what I'm hearing, I think I'm just going to put DS in S and Double Dash in A.
No, just put them both in S tier.
No, fuck that. The list is done. Let's move on.
What the shit, man?
Very good. I do actually need to head out now, guys. Thanks so much for including me.
No problem, Ben. I'll be sending you the video file a little later.
All right, see you guys later.
Later, Ben.
So what do you guys want to do now?
Why do you guys always insist on pissing me off with these lists?
Don't be blaming us for you letting yourself get worked up over stupid shit. Now let's move the fuck on, please.
You know what? You're right. Let's move on.
To what, Donald?
Joe, to settle this problem, we're going to do something that's been long overdue.
Oh, for the love of God, is this about to be another one of your things?
You're damn right it is, Joe. Get ready.